pretty much most of my records here. As I was running out of space at home, it was gradually filling up, and I got worried about the floorboards giving way. I knew that music was what I wanted to do from probably when I was about 9 or 10. It was very much, well, this is what I want to do. This is what brings me joy. You know, obviously, it's not a sensible choice. It's not even a choice. Hi, I'm David Wrench. I'm a record producer and a musician, and I also model. I've always loved music. I was quite obsessed with listening to records, even as like a really tiny child. I'd escape into this world with music. Then once I was 9, 10, I kept pestering my parents. I was really adamant that I wanted to play piano. I was literally drawing out the piano keyboard on paper, and I'd practice like that in my bedroom because I was so obsessed. Well, I've always liked hearing new things. I only liked classical music when I was growing up. I quite liked that it made me feel uncomfortable, or that there was something in there that I couldn't quite get my head around. And I wasn't that bothered with pop music at that point. Then at some point I heard the Smiths and Joy Division. Then there was the explosion of acid house music, and it was really exciting. My first ever gig was at Sonic Youth on their Daydream Nation tour, and it was unbelievable. I got to see like Nirvana live twice, Public Enemy, early Manic Street Preacher stuff, things like that. Well, you got all this different outboard gear here. Loads of channels that I've sort of amassed over the years for different types of sound. Warm Neve, it's a really punchy API. It's a retro channel, I record most vocals through that these days. The Avalon, Dimension D for adding weird chorusy width to stuff. The H949, that's quite an amazing piece of gear. Used it a lot on the last XX album. With the XX, it's so much about voice and the space around it. It helped build that up. I think because I came to it outside of the London scene as well, I had to really make a mark to be able to make that leap. I wasn't around any other engineers. I didn't know how to do it properly. I never went to university to study it. I had to figure out the whole studio thing for myself from observing. I got to work with lots and lots of producers who came through the studio, and I'd see what worked well, what didn't work well. I realised that very little of it is about the audio stuff. It's the psychology of a recording session. It's how to get the best performances, the best takes and the best out of an artist. How to keep a band from falling apart during a session. I really like working with artists who have vision, have their own ideas. There was a period where I did quite a few albums. Within a 3-month period, I mixed the first FKA Twigs album, the first Jungle album, Caribou Our Love album, and the first Glass Animals album. And that all happened in a really short time, and they all came out around the same time. And that then completely changed everything. This is one of my favourite ever things, the Neutron biphase pedal. I'd been after one for years and years, and eventually got one. I've always liked clothes because I realised quite early on that it can force you to act in a different way if you wear something. If I turn up wearing a silver leather jacket or a cloak, people are going to come and talk to me. I don't have to make the effort. I mean, I grew up in Wales with albinism. You know, I didn't look like anybody else that was around me. I've always had actually a lot of abuse in the street. I really thought, oh, I'm really quite ugly physically. And that's what you sort of end up believing when that happens to you over and over. I'm in my 40s, and that's when I suddenly start getting asked to model. Suddenly then at very odds with your own perception of yourself. This weird look that I've got that I felt unconfident about for years is suddenly wanted within fashion. It's quite a change, really. There was a period where there was just no work coming in. I couldn't afford the rent on where I was living, and I got offered a teaching job. And I thought, well, maybe this is the time where I have to take a career change. But I was talking to an amazing artist called Julian Cope, and he just started going, no, what do you want about it? So go and look in the mirror. You're unemployable outside of music. Stop telling yourself you've got another option, because you haven't. You just have to make it work. And once you accept that, you'll actually be all right.